When we first heard about Outlast, it was right around the time the PS4 and the Xbox One were coming out. And some people we knew were claiming it was scarier than Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Which, yeah, that's a tall order. And although at that point I hadn't played Amnesia fully yet, I had heard that was the scariest game ever. Oh boy, did this game scare the shit out of us first time. I think Todd pissed his pants within the first hour or so. No, I didn't! We definitely had to put the controller down several times and play through this freaking game. I wonder what would have happened if we had a heart rate monitor hooked up when we were playing. Oh, that thing would have thought Todd was having a fucking heart attack. After a first sweaty, panic-filled playthrough, I kind of bought into the hype that, yeah, this game was the scariest shit out there. But now that I've played way more horror games, including all the Amnesia games, the less we say about the 2 sequels, the better. I think it's time to come back to Outlast 1 and see how it holds up. Hopefully it does. I mean, it should be a better game than Outlast 2 at least. Yeah. In Outlast, you play a man named Miles Upshur going on an investigation to uncover some freaky shit in an insane asylum. Outlast is a first-person horror game with an emphasis on exploration and hiding from enemies. You see, Miles can't defend himself at all. You're gonna be spending most of the game hiding in the corner like a little bitch. So you're Todd. Hey! Instead of having a flashlight, you have a camera that has a built-in night vision mode, which is neat, since a flashlight would give away your position. But just like Amnesia, there is some resource management. Apparently, Miles' camera has the shittiest battery I have ever seen. It drains so goddamn fast, you gotta find replacement AA batteries in the environment. Miles, you should have gone with some Duracell and some Energizer batteries, man, come on. If the battery runs out, you'll still have night vision, but its range is so bad it's just one tier above completely useless. It's the only resource you have to manage, so try to run out of batteries, because this game is dark. And I don't just mean in tone, I mean as in I can't see a fucking thing at times. The camera also has a zoom feature that can help you see things from a distance and is a nice touch. But going back to hiding, you can hide in lockers, you can hide under things like beds, or just crouch in the dark. Just make sure you break line of sight before hiding, or else inmates will find you and kill you. However, once you're hiding somewhere, they never seem to check the locker you're in, and will always check one nearby, or just walk into the room and look around for 5 seconds. The AI for enemies is kind of basic. They have set patrol patterns and will chase you until you break line of sight, or you shut a door in their face and then hide somewhere. I never felt like the AI outplayed me or outsmarted me, and they never seem to get smarter as the game progresses either. But the game does a good job with the atmosphere to make the enemies feel scary. You can peek around corners, but I don't think I ever use it and always forget about it. If any enemy sees you, all you can do is run and hide. You can look over your shoulder to see what's chasing you, but I often found this kind of jarring and it just made getting away harder, which, yeah, that's actually pretty realistic now that I think about it. Yeah, it is harder to run away from something when you're looking over your shoulder at it. You can vault over objects that are in your way and slam doors to buy yourself time, because they have to break the door down to get into the room with you. And in some cases, you can even bar doors so they can't do that either and you're completely safe from them, as long as you don't remove the thing blocking the door. You have regenerating health in this game, but with most enemies, it's 2 to 3 hits and you're out, so you don't want to get hit, unless you want to see some of the very nice death animations. I don't think I'd call that nice, Edgy. The game has multiple difficulty settings that affect how many hits you can take, but more importantly, how many batteries you can carry. The hardest difficulty, which I have never attempted, limits you to a single battery, and if you die, you gotta restart the entire game. Nah, bro, hell no, fuck that shit, man, fuck that. To be fair, the base game isn't that long, especially if you know what you're doing. I think I've beaten this game in under 2 hours before, so it's not like Dead Space 3 hardcore levels of insanity. In between running and hiding, you have to sometimes find items or pull multiple switches in a map to escape an area with a crazy person lurking around trying to kill you. These kind of start to overstay their welcome, but thankfully the game isn't very long, so it's not too terrible. You'll also find documents that give you more details on what the fuck the Murkoff Corporation, the company behind everything in this game, is doing. And thankfully, unlike a lot of other games, Outlast 2, they don't hide massive plot points in these notes. They actually will convey them to you in the story as you play, instead of just in this note that you could absolutely miss. Certain events in the game will also cause Miles to write notes himself if you have the camera raised while it's happening. And in these, Miles gives commentary on what just happened, and they're usually really funny. And it's the only way Miles conveys his personality since he's mute the entire game, besides his panic breathing and occasional grunts. Despite the game taking place in or around, and in some cases under, the asylum, they actually do a good job of mixing up the areas so nothing feels too samey. Except for one area, but that doesn't count since it's the place you started the game at. You return there later and then go to another section you couldn't before. Alright, I'm gonna pass this off to Todd since he's too scared to talk about anything else related to this game. He's uncovered the technical shit. At first I was gonna say this game runs well, and for the most part it does. The game seems locked at 60 FPS though. I don't know why. Even with VSync turned off, it's still at 60. But visually it holds up really well actually. I think the striking lighting really sells it. However, it's not perfect. We had multiple crashes, mostly during loading screens. The DLC, the Whistleblower DLC, had more glitches, like one of the inmates that was supposed to be chasing us got stuck in a door, which just deflated all the horror in the situation. Not that I'm complaining. We also had an enemy face through the door when they were supposed to go through it instead of opening it, which was just funny. I will say, this game is pretty immersive and it never breaks the first-person view. They also try to avoid having blatant loading screens that would break up the flow a little bit. Loading screens are mostly relegated to reloading a checkpoint when you die. I don't know if any of the technical issues are due to us running the game on newer hardware. It could be, because I don't remember the PS4 version ever having bugs like this, but the bugs are few and far between, so it isn't a huge deal. Jeff, you want to talk about sound and music now? Yeah. The music does a really good job of making you panic. There's always a loud as fuck, like just audio cue whenever an enemy sees you.
Is that you? I hear you, Dr. Edgy. Let's
And some of the enemies have unique chase themes that'll make you want to shit bricks. I hate hearing Chris Walker's theme whenever he finds me. Yeah, they did a good job with that. They mostly use the music when an enemy is nearby or if they see you, but sometimes they use it to try and be moody and shit. But a lot of times they just won't have music and it's just the ambient noise, which is really nice too. All the music in this game wouldn't feel out of place in like a super intense horror movie. And it gets the job done. Now, sound effects are also really good, and certain enemies have unique sounds for them when they walk. The big dude with a fucked up face has the sounds of like chains and shit when he walks around, which is really good to help you figure out how close he is to you. The doctor always clicks his shears together so you can use that on top of footsteps to tell where he is. Like I said, there's also a lot of ambient noises that can make you think something is there, even when there isn't. Miles' panic breathing is also a nice touch. Kinda sounds like they stuck a microphone in front of Todd while he's freaking out. I don't sound like that. You do. You really do. It's also a way the game lets you know something is out to get you. I'm just glad the enemies can't hear you because man, that would fucking suck. This is a game you really want to play with a good pair of headphones in a dark room. Alright, let's talk about the plot. Hell yeah. I'd rather not. Do you like sci-fi? Do you like superhero teams? Well, you might want to check out my book, Renegades Volume 1 Rise, now available on Amazon, both physical and digital. Set in the far future, humanity accidentally crossed over into another dimension while trying to escape a dying Earth. They arrived at a mirror Earth called Terra, inhabited by sentient humanoid animals called Terrans. Humans and Terrans coexisted for a little while, but they eventually went to war. After 10 years of brutal warfare, they eventually found peace. Our story is set 50 years later. A madman named Ivan and his terror cell called Scythe are searching for a dangerous weapon that will allow them to take over the world. The only people who can stop them are the Renegades, a ragtag group of misfits including a teenage girl trained to be a soldier since she was a child, a teenage delinquent with a hoverboard, 2 super geniuses, a former heavyweight pro boxer with cybernetic augments, and a mysterious blue creature with no memories and the ability to manipulate water and ice. In order to stop Ivan, the Renegades will have to take on giant mechs, evil mega corporations, terrorists, cyborg ninjas, and more in their exciting debut. You can pick up the digital version for 99 cents or the print version for 17 bucks. You can also read the book for free as serials on my Wattpad and Minds accounts. They are updated every other week with a new section. So, like I said, we play as Miles, a journalist that got a tip that there was some illegal shit going down at Mount Massive Asylum. Illegal being a massive fucking understatement. And the asylum is run by the Murkoff Corporation, and Miles decides to go in with his trusty camera to expose the truth. Man, I bet he wishes he didn't do that. Oh, I'd put money on it. Todd lost it at this part. I mean, I did too, but he really fucking lost it. He actually got up and left the damn room. This scare, now that I think about it, does kind of suck because if you take out the loud noise, it's really not that scary. But then again, you went through 10 minutes of pretty much nothing and just suspense, so I guess it makes sense to go loud. It isn't long for you jump by an inmate named Chris Walker.
Little pig.
Get used to seeing this big motherfucker. He chases you for most of the game. Then another inmate dressed like a priest named Father Martin decides you are a witness and that you have a higher calling. That will come into play later. You try to escape, but Martin shuts down the power. You have to go into the basement and avoid your first enemy to restart the power by triggering a few switches for a generator. Once you head back to security, you can lock the main gate and get the fuck out of here.
I'm sorry, my son. I didn't want to have to do this to you. But you can't leave. Not yet. There is so much yet for you to witness. Will you see it? Can you? Our Lord, the Wall Rider, tearing his truth into the unbelievers. The only way out of this place is the truth. Accept the gospel, and all doors will open before you.
Why can't it ever be easy in horror games? You wake up in a prison cell, and on your way out, you meet two inmates called the Twins. They do not wear clothes. Unlike most game characters that are just action figures down there, the devs actually gave them junk. So I may or may not have to censor these clips. They talk about how they want to kill you, but Father Martin told them not to, but they're gonna do it anyway, cause fuck it. You keep going and it becomes apparent that these people are fucking crazy, and the devs aren't pulling any punches here. Yeah, they don't have any restraint with the gore and just fucked up shit. A few minutes after this, you see a guy in the middle of fucking a corpse, man. And then he turns around and calls you sick for stumbling into it. Can I not be here for the rest of this review? Nah, dude. Get used to seeing blood, intestines, severed limbs, and gore and just everywhere. There's very few rooms where it's not there in some capacity. One thing they do a good job with is making you feel uneasy because the inmates aren't predictable and it's not always clear which ones are hostile and which ones aren't. There are times where they'll fake you out and have you think that the inmate is hostile only for them not to be. And sometimes they'll become hostile if you do certain things like get too close. You always feel like you shouldn't turn your back on them, which, I mean, yeah, you shouldn't. As you wander through the asylum, you learn that the inmates are part of a project called the Wall Rider Project, or they call it Project Wall Rider. But you don't know what it's for yet. Chris Walker also shows up again, and he's not just killing you, he's killing other inmates too and ripping their goddamn heads off. But he ends up chasing you again, and you fall. Chris follows you down there, and you gotta sneak past him and run like hell. You do eventually escape, and you have to avoid being shanked by the two twins in the prison showers. What is up with the shankings happening in prison showers? I just noticed that. A lot of things that people get shanked in the shower area in like prison shit. I don't know why that is. But eventually you end up in the sewers. Yeah, when have sewer levels ever ended well in horror games especially? You're not wrong. On your way to the sewers, though, you do catch a glimpse of something shadowy moving through the air, and the word Wall Rider is written in blood with a strange symbol included. In the sewers, we have to avoid Chris again. Yeah, this dude is relentless as hell, and turn on some valves to lower the water so you can get out by using a ladder. This is functioning like the generator restart thing we did before. It's a good thing you can outrun Chris and he can't follow you through tight spaces. I mean, look at the size of that lad. He ain't squeezing through no tight spaces. I mean, look at him. Absolute unit, but the section that always freaks me the fuck out in the sewers is when you're in the dark and it's like in the deep water and you can hear Chris is in the same big ass room as you are, and the room is so big you can't see the whole room even with the night vision on, so you can't quite tell where he is. You have to go off of sound. Yeah, that part is can be pretty nerve-wracking. Until you realize if you stick to the edge and walk instead of run, he doesn't ever get near you. But the best part of the sewer area is when you have 3 or 4 guys chasing you and you gotta slam and barricade doors behind you and jump over obstacles to slow them down. You know what? Describing it doesn't really do it justice. I'm just gonna let that shit play.
Wants me! Wants me! You slippery little whore! You can't hide! I want my money! I want my money! I want my money!
Who's down there? You're not one of them, are you? Quick, get in the dumbwaiter if you want to live.
God damn it!
You're the right choice here, buddy.
Out of the frying pan and into the fucking fryer. Meet Dr. Traeger. He's my favorite character in the base game, mostly because of his mannerisms and tone, and also because he's the only one who physically scars you for the rest of the game.
Thou, Bible thumping. No offense to the man, but I sometimes worry he might just be a little bit lazy. It's understandable when people get scared. There's like to turn to God as anything else. God died with the gold standard. We're on to a more concrete faith now. You have to rob Paul to pay Peter. There's no other way. Murder in it is the simplest form, but what happens when all the money's gone? Well, money becomes a matter of faith. And that's what I'm here for. To make you believe. You paying attention? Don't pass that on me. There's so much for you to absorb. There. Better, right?
He must be a Koronetsuki and collects Yubis for her. Todd, what the fuck are you talking about? Moving on. This part of the game is pretty fun because it's pure cat and mouse from here. You gotta sneak past him and put some boxes blocking the door while making sure Traeger don't catch you. The problem is, his other torture victims are scripted to give away your location at points during this.
I'm not a patient. I'm an executive, just like him. Like Traeger. He got the gene and he's still alive. Killed with Wernicke snipers. He worked too well. They couldn't control it. And you can't control it. Nobody. He'll find you. He'll kill you. He's coming now. Traeger! You can't get a shit about this fight down the line. No, get fucking try it. You got it. Motherfucker, try it. Try it.
Yeah, this is the highlight of the game because up to this point, most of the major enemies are kind of one note with their dialogue, but Traeger talks like a sleazy corporate manager that's also unhinged. After you get the elevator key, you do get revenge on him for taking your fingers.
I'm not giving up on you.
Yeah, that was pretty satisfying. After this, you gotta get outside, but to do that, you gotta get out of the kitchen. But one of the inmates decided that he's just done with this shit and is gonna burn it all down. And it's just sitting there waiting to die in the fire. And honestly, I can't say I blame him, cause it's some fucked up shit right here. So now you gotta turn on the sprinkler so you can get to the kitchen. There's 2 switches, but there's a problem. You guessed it, Chris Walker is back and again patrolling the area looking for you. Yeah, that dude, the dedication on this man trying to track you down. But once you do all that, you end up outside, and outside is creepy as hell. You'd think it wouldn't be as bad as indoors, but no, they actually do a good job of freaking you out when you're outside. Yeah, it is dark as all hell, and it's thunderstorming, and even with night vision, you can't see that much. When you go to one of the shacks you need to go to get out of the area, you get a good look at the wall rider. This part is really creepy because the wall rider will just show up randomly and just fly around, but it doesn't attack you. That comes later. After climbing around a bunch, you gotta get past Chris Walker again. Yeah, again. We might as well have a Chris Walker counter on the damn screen at the rate we going. And you end up following Father Martin into the female ward, which is run down and abandoned. Yeah, there's no chicks in this asylum. While you're there, you gotta collect 3 fuses to open up a laundry chute and grab a key off a dead guard somebody stuffed in there. And you guessed it again! The 3 fuses are hidden in 3 rooms and somebody is patrolling the halls that you gotta avoid. This part was annoying as shit and I don't remember it being this bad before. Unlike other hostile inmates, this one doesn't slowly walk from point A to point B while looking for you. He runs. Now you can board some of the doors to keep him out, but it's a pain in the ass and he's caught me a few times when collecting footage for this shit. After that, you get the key and you get chased again and you gotta keep moving. Father Martin is again leaving arrows and messages written in blood for you to follow. But on your way, you get jumped by the Naked Twins again. Despite their menacing music, they really suck at finding you, and it was easy for me to just slip past them, like I didn't put any effort into it. But once you do, this happens. Can we just leave the camera behind? Nah, the game won't let you since you can't see a damn thing in the dark. So you gotta go get it. The game doesn't throw any enemies at you, but it does try to freak you out. When you pick up the camera though, that's another story. Pretty cool that the camera screen is actually fucked up and the camera will glitch out every once in a while now. Very nice touch. But we find ourselves back in the starting area of the game, but Father Martin, being a douchebag and making sure that we watch this damn movie, locks a door we need to go through and has another inmate tell us that the key is in the theater. In the theater we hear word from a Dr. Warnicki, who is the person behind Project Wall Rider. This dude is a Nazi scientist that's somehow still alive despite being old as shit. And apparently this ain't the first time this experiment's been done. They were doing this shit back in World War II also. Yeah, once you get the key, you gotta sneak past the twins again. And again, they're no real threat to you at this point. I pretty much just ignored them. Chris is still trying to kill you, but after you get past him, you see Father Martin. He, You know what? I'm just gonna let the scene play.
You are. We will join the Wall Rider in just a moment. My Job, you alone shall escape the Talva. This is your penultimate act of witness. The promise of the prophets was always freedom from death. And here it is. You will watch and record my death, my resurrection. And together we will be free. You are no longer in any danger. I fixed the elevator. It will take you to freedom. We will all of us be free. Now, my son.
At least he left you the key to get the fuck out of here. Chris Walker wants to get one more chase in for good measure, in case you weren't already sick of dealing with him. But you make it to the elevator, and now you can walk out of here and tell everyone how horrible this place is.
Got your baited. You got your baited. You got your baited. 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 Baited.
Of course it wasn't going to be that easy. Now we're in the middle of the lab where the morphogenic engine that created the Wall Rider is located. Speaking of the Wall Rider, damn, homeboy got fucked up. That's some WWE shit right there. Help a bird out here, Jim Ross.
Don't do this. Please, don't do this. Get up. Let's get up. Don't do it. Man, don't do it. No, don't do it. Think of your family. Think of your fans. Think of everything. Let go already. Let go already. That killed him. Oh, my God. That's not a straight witness. He is broken in half.
We get to meet the doctor, and he tells you that the Wall Rider is a swarm of nanomachines being controlled by a patient named Billy, who is hooked up to the morphogenic engine and life support that's keeping him alive. Warnicky tells you that you have to disable 2 systems to kill him. Of course, the Wall Rider isn't gonna let you do that. The Wall Rider is pretty scary because you can only see it with the night vision on, and if it catches you, it instantly kills you. Also, it can phase through doors, so doors aren't gonna do anything to it. You can't really sneak past it either. It seems to always know where you are, so hiding isn't a good idea. You just gotta run. The only way to get away is to enter one of the decontamination chambers. For some reason, it can't follow you through them. At least not right away. You finally get to the machine, and you have to make a mad dash for one machine, and then a mad dash for the other, and then come back to the main console and flip a switch to kill Bill. Congrats, you did it.
forced. Jesus God, what is that thing?
Yeah, the nanomachines just kinda hijack your body and you just start killing everybody, and that's the end. And this game is still scary. Oh yeah, it actually still got me at some points with the jump scares. I will say the repetition of finding X amount of items, pressing X amount of switches to unlock something while a stalker is following you does get pretty old. But thankfully this game is so short that it doesn't overstay its welcome. Even with me getting stuck and dying several times, we finished this game in under 3 hours. Main thing that kinda messes with the horror a bit is that all the enemies besides the wall rider behave exactly the same. They just look different and have different lines or whatever, but they're functionally the same. It would have been cool to see some differences, like one being more thorough when checking hiding spots or something. Oh hell, here's an idea. One of them is carrying a flashlight and they'll turn it on when they enter a dark area, so hiding in the dark isn't gonna work or something. That'd be pretty cool. Wait, did Jeff actually have a good idea? Todd, I need you to time and date this right fucking now. But going back to the game, overall, I still think it's a pretty good horror game. I noticed a lot of people, on YouTube anyway, seem to dislike the whole run and hide gameplay. And there are definitely games out there where that just doesn't work and it's not scary. But I think this game does a good job with the tension and the cat and mouse feel. So for me, it gets a pass. I do get why some people don't like that kind of gameplay. Because yeah, just running and hiding from something doesn't necessarily make it scary, but I think Outlast does a good job. Yeah, the parts where you aren't sure how close they are to you and if you should move or not is still pretty tense, even after not playing the game for years. It was nerve-wracking just watching it. What about the DLC though? Oh yeah. Oh boy. Outlast Whistleblower takes place both before, during, and after the main game and follows Wayland Park, the guy who tipped off Miles in the base game and basically led him to this shit. The game starts off with you sending that message and getting called away to help Murkoff fix a software issue with the morphinogenic engine, and then you get caught.
Somebody's been telling stories outside of class.
On the floor! Down! Hands where I can see him!
Mr. Wayland Park, consulting contract 8208. Software engineer with a level 3 security clearance. Graduated cum laude from Berkeley, but still somehow not smart enough to realize that the last thing a fly ought to do in a spider's web is wiggle. Somehow dumb enough to think that a borrowed laptop, onion router, and firewall patch would be enough to fool the world's leading supplier of biometric security. Stupid, Mr. Park. More than stupid. In fact, that was crazy. I'm afraid we're going to have you committed. Mr. Park, will you willingly submit to forced confinement? Did you hear that, Agent?
He said yes, Mr. Blair.
Great. Oh, and did I just hear Mr. Wayland Park volunteer for the morphogenic engine program?
Well, that's what I heard, Mr. Blair.
That was brave indeed, Wayland. The Murkoff Corporation and the Onward March of Science both appreciate your bravery and sacrifice. Maybe you could administer Mr. Park here a light anesthetic.
Gladly.
Don't worry, it isn't long before things go to complete shit around here. Yeah, you spend a good while running like hell through the testing area while you see the inmates breaking loose and going on a rampage. You learn there is an old radio nearby and you head there, but there's just one problem.
Don't you look at us. I love him.
This is one thing the DLC really improved on and does a better job with than the main game. There's two new antagonists and they are both fantastic. This guy, the cannibal, chases you around with a freaking saw and you will hear him revving that shit up as he's walking around and looking for you. They also mix up the encounters this time. There's points where you have to sneak around him, but there's also more straightforward chase sequences where he just comes out of nowhere and you gotta juke him and run away. Don't forget that one scene. Oh yeah, that's right.
Stay there and cook.
Good times. They also avoid the whole find 2 of X object thing in this section. They avoid all that shit that they had in the main game. There is one point where you need to shut off a gas valve so you can enter the decontamination chambers to escape, but it's several rooms away from when you get prompted to do this, and you gotta get through a chase scene before getting in an area where you have to sneak past the cannibal. Unfortunately, what was supposed to be a tense cat and mouse game here got ruined by a glitch where the cannibal's AI was just stuck in a doorway for some reason and wouldn't follow us. Once you pass through the decontamination chambers, it's on to the prison yard. There's some good scares here that actually got me pretty good. Especially with the area being so foggy, your vision is actually worse if you turn the night vision on. You also run into the twins from the main game, but they just kind of stand there. They don't attack you. It's weird. It's weird. I don't know why they even had them here in the first place, aside from, hey, remember the twins? They even reuse lines from the base game. Like, they don't even try to hide it or have them record like new lines or something. It just felt like they just shoved them in here. Eventually, you do make it to the radio, and that asshole in the suit that busted you earlier jumps you and smashes the radio, then leaves you for dead as your old friend Chris Walker, yeah, he's back again, shows up and chases you through the prison area that you were in the main game. Even Father Martin is here writing a message on the wall for Miles to follow. That was a nice touch. Unfortunately, the way the DLC handles transition from one level to the next is not as good as the original. This time there are loading screens. Now on an SSD, they barely last a few seconds, but they do break the flow when you compare it to the main game, which, yeah, that was kind of odd. I wonder why that is. But after we escape Chris Walker, we wander around outside until we come to an electrified fence. We gotta go downstairs to turn on the power. When you do, there's a guy down there and, this is what Zero Bitches does to a motherfucker. When you pull the switch and head back to the fence, the power turns back on, so you gotta go back. Aight, that was good. You eventually have to make a jump where you kind of fuck it up and fall into a rundown building and you hear multiple people talking. As you're sneaking around, an inmate warns you that if you're caught, they'll send you to the man downstairs, and apparently he's really fucking bad. It's not long before you're chased down there by another inmate that was the source of all the voices. Yeah, this guy is just a fucking voice actor, got multiple personalities with different voices and shit. And we quickly find out why being down here is a bad idea.
Darn.
Best Psycho. The Groom is a whole other level of crazy. He steals the fucking show. He wants to find his perfect bride, but the problem is he's in an asylum full of dudes. So, yeah, you can kind of see where this is going, right? He likes to perform surgeries on people against their will to try to make the perfect woman. And, you're next. Take everything good about Dr. Traeger and crank that shit up to an 11. The encounters with him are also really good because, again, they mix things up. The first encounter is sneaking past him and going out the way he comes in to try and get you. Then you fall and bust your ass in an elevator shaft and fuck up your leg, so you gotta limp away from him. Now, the Groom does move slower than the other inmates, but if he catches you, he's just gonna insta-kill you. You do eventually get caught, and it leads to a scene that I can't show because I feel like Susan is gonna feed me testicles and shaft first through a buzzsaw if I do. Yeah, this scene makes me wince every time I see it. Thankfully, a random inmate saves you before having more kids becomes impossible for you. You also get to see just how many people the room is killed, and good God, man, the body count is ridiculous. Unfortunately, you get caught again and he tries to string you up, but you pull an Uno reverse card on him with a QTE event of all things, which is weird because there weren't any in the main game. But you reverse the situation and he ends up getting strung up on the ceiling and impaled. After this, you have one last short confrontation. It's a cutscene with the dude who got you into this mess, where he gets torn the fuck up by the wall rider. You try to escape in Miles' car, but then the wall rider comes back for you.
You press that button. There's no going back, Mr. Park. There's enough hard evidence in that video file to make a world of shit for our friends at Murkoff. You got out of Mount Massive alive, and we've done everything in our power to cover your tracks. But our enemies are twitching and malicious corporate paranoics with resources you're too moral to imagine. You won't be the only target. Anyone you care about, your wife, your child, they'll do nothing to Murkoff but ways to hurt you. I need you to understand the bridge you're crossing here. You will do irrevocable damage to the company. You might even get close to something like justice. But once you click upload, your life is over. Everyone you love is fucked. But it's the right thing to do. Is hurting Murkoff worth that much to you?
Whistleblower fixes some of the issues with the base game, and it doesn't have the annoying find or activate multiple items problem that the main game has. And because of how short it is, it feels way more relentless, and the breakneck pace makes a lot of sense. Also, the cannibal and the grim are more memorable than most of the enemies in the main game. Oh yeah, but is it scarier than the main game though? Honestly, no, but I think it's very close. I'm actually surprised that both hold up as well as they do, especially after the sequel came out, and the sequel to me was not that scary. And it made me question if the first game was really as scary as we thought it was. Yeah, this was actually pretty fun to go back to. But is it scarier than Amnesia: The Dark Descent? Nah. Amnesia's atmosphere, I think, is scarier. Just that kind of, the atmosphere, just the whole vibe of it kind of freaks you out even when nothing is happening. And I just think Amnesia holds up a lot better overall, especially with the whole sanity mechanic thing, giving you more to manage and more to worry about. Yeah, I can see that. That's true. That's fair. But what are we reviewing next? No fucking idea, dude. I'm trying to get this out before Halloween, and I should have probably planned this earlier, but man, we suck at planning. Yeah, we do. We really do.